and we are discussing Wish You Were Here by Jodi Picoult. Before we start, if everybody wants to introduce themselves, I know we have a few new faces today. So Kathy, I'm starting with you because you were on first.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I'm super excited because I haven't joined one of these in a while, but I read the book the last week of Christmas. I've been waiting for this. I'm excited.
And if anybody's in the healthcare industry, mention it because I want to pick your brains during the discussion. Okay, Glenda.
Hi, I'm Glenda, and just like Kathy, I read the book over the Christmas break, and I've been waiting for Michelle to finish the book so I could talk to her about the ending, and I'm very excited to be here. This is my first book club discussion I've been, so I'm very excited.
Glenda's my sister-in-law, so she was hounding me for a while. Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie. I finished the book like half an hour ago. So I made it.
It's funny because there's a couple of people that messaged me that just started reading it like a week ago, and they're like, we don't know if we're gonna make it, but we're reading it right now. Okay.
Yeah, I had so many books and to catch up, and I was trying, and work has been getting in my way. How dare it?
Yeah.
And then I was gonna finish earlier. I was telling Lily, I'm like, I got a work call. I need to finish this book. How do they not know? But I finished.
I hope you enjoyed it. Lydia.
I'm Lydia, and I've seen a lot of familiar faces, and I read it in 2 days because I couldn't put it down. And I can't wait to discuss this because it was just like out of control, this book. This was the best one yet, Michelle. The best
Yay!
One. Yeah, I think. Don't tell Chanel when we talk to her again about this. But this one,
don't tell who, Chanel.
Yeah.
I already messaged her to see if
I know you would.
I already emailed her to see if she can come for her next book before she gets booked.
This was amazing. This one was amazing.
Yay. Olga. Hi.
Hello, everybody. Lydia is the one that has gotten me into your book club. I came to one other session with, it was Emily, I think, that the author. That one was good too. Yes, but this book, it just had so many like twists and turns. And when you thought one thing, something else came about. So again, work got in my way and I didn't finish it as fast as Lydia. But I was very, very excited when I read this one. This is definitely a good one.
Yay. Michelle in the dark.
Yeah, so I'm Michelle. I'm the one hiding in the car. And yeah, it took me a little bit longer than 2 days to read the book. But I read it pretty quick compared to how I've been reading, which is great because this year, one of my goals is to read at least 4 books, which has been very challenging for me to even finish 2 or 1. But I finished this one and I really liked it. So let's see.
Okay, and you're past healthcare, so I'm picking your brain.
I am.
Allie.
Hi. I also read this book over the holidays when I was in a good reading fast binge period. I think I read like 3 or 4 books in like a 2-week period, which never happens. And I've yet to open up a book yet this month, but you know, it comes in waves. But I also hounded Michelle once I got to, part 2. And I just said, where are you at?
You, Glenda,
not saying anything.
You, Glenda, and Kathy were like, "Are you at the part yet?" And I'm like, "What is the part? We can't tell you. Where's the part?" And like every time I thought I got to like a part of it, like when her little thing with Gabriel, I was like, "Is this it?" They're like, "Nope, keep reading."
I was like, trust me, you're gonna know when you get to the part.
I posted about the part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alexis,
Hi, I'm Alexis. I finished the book a couple weeks ago. I work in a hospital. I'm a speech pathologist, and yeah, I cried multiple times when I read that book because it was just like so close to home. So I'm excited to like talk about it with everyone.
I loved you posting like the passages that resonated with you.
No, because like I don't like you guys probably don't understand how hard it is to like be seen as a speech therapist. Like people don't know what we do, and especially in the hospital. So when I saw like what I do in that book, I was like, oh my God, somebody sees me.
Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy. Great pick. I read the book in about 2 days. And it came at the perfect time. I love reading, avid reader, but I don't know, I've been in like a little reading slump. Hadn't really picked up anything exciting. And the hype of like what I saw everyone posting, you know, the twist. And I remember I'm like, I gotta keep going, I gotta get to this. And when I got to that part, it was on my Kindle. My husband was already asleep, and I went that I thought that I had woken him up because like it was such a shock. So it was fantastic. Like really, really enjoyed it. Great choice.
Yay. Adria.
Hi, I'm Adria. I actually listened to this book on Audible, and I got through it in a few days. I thought it was so good. I'm really excited to discuss it. And I think this is one I don't think that I would have picked up on my own. I was really hesitant to pick up a pandemic book this close to the pandemic. Like I thought, oh my God, is this too soon? Especially I had a baby during the pandemic. So I was in the hospital at the very beginning of the pandemic, and it was just felt like it might be too soon, but it was so good. So I'm glad that this was a pick for this month.
Yeah, you know, I had the same feeling too. I was like, do I really want to read a book about coronavirus? Yeah.
It has some light parts. Lily.
Hi, I'm Lily. I am gonna admit that I haven't finished. I tried. I was listening to on Audible, and I have a couple chapters left, so I'm hoping that there's not like massive spoilers. I'm sure there will be, but
I'm like, where are you by so we don't spoil anything huge?
No, I can't. I just talk about it. It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna finish listening to it tomorrow for sure.
Okay. Do you know what the part is that everybody's talking about?
Yeah, I'm definitely past the part.
Because I'm like, if we spoil the biggest thing for you. Okay. Jennifer.
Hi. I'm kind of on the same page as her. I was like a little iffy about reading something about the pandemic and the whole being a teacher and through COVID, and you know, it was a lot, but I enjoyed it. I didn't even know actually that it was going to be so much about the pandemic when I first started. I'm like, oh, Galapagos, and I'm in a vacation and I'm having a great time, you know? So I loved that part. And then when it came back to the pandemic and then we went back, I was loving it. It was a great pick. I really enjoyed it.
If you guys don't know the backstory, I joined, the author had a virtual book club with Books and Books the day before it was released. And she mentioned that she was also like in a writing rut, and she was writing the book that is going to be released like next month, Mad Honey, I think it's what it's called. And she had finished that and she just started writing to like release her energy. She's asthmatic, so she wasn't going out anywhere. Her husband was the one going to get the groceries and everything for her. And this was just like a release outlet for her. And when she finished it, she sent it to her publisher with a note that just said surprise. And they loved it and ended up publishing it before the one that she was actually working on that was due for this summer. So it wasn't a planned book. She did interview a lot of, I don't know if you read the author's note at the end. She interviewed a lot of people in the healthcare industry, and the storyline about being stuck somewhere is based on an actual traveler who was stuck in Machu Picchu. And she had never traveled there. So that's why she based it on the Galapagos, because it was a vacation that she had recently done and could actually write about, versus Machu Picchu, where she couldn't get to in the middle of the pandemic. So there's a lot of research went into it, apparently. So
I also read I listened to actually a podcast with her today, and she
Oh.
said once she decided on the Galapagos, because she had been there before, then she went and looked up if there was anyone that did get stuck on the Galapagos, and she found a guy that got stuck on Isabel Island and interviewed him, and then got some, feedback from him on, basically the same thing, like what happened to him, where he stayed, the people that, helped him also. So then she really got a first-hand account.
Very cool. And Allie, where are your buddies?
I know. I'm sure Jenna will hop on eventually.
They had replied. Okay.
She's working right now.
I'll keep looking at the waiting room thing. Okay, so some of you already mentioned this, but how was it to revisit March 2020 and like the moment when everything changed for us? Do you think they captured how we felt at that moment?
Yeah, I even think there was stuff I almost forgot about already that was like, oh yeah, like I remember not going to get my mail for days, or, leaving the groceries in the hallway and wiping them down and all of that stuff that like we've already, I feel like, almost forgotten a little bit. So it was weird already to go back to that.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday that was actually based on this book as well, Bad on Paper, and they're based in New York, and they were mentioning how they're like, I think we blocked it out, that all the trucks with the bodies, like the morgue bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had that at Baptist last summer and like the summer of 2020. I think reading about like what happened, like reading it all over again, like I realized how like I haven't processed 2020 and like what happened. And like most of us like that I work with, like we haven't been able to like put it behind us because we keep getting like these waves and like it's like happens all over again.
You guys are still on the go.
Yeah, like now it's like a little bit more calm, but like over like this summer, like with Delta, like it was just like, how is this happening again?
So
like we haven't even processed like the last one.
As a speech pathologist, how did you work with the COVID patients? Was it like the ones that survived, like her, like if you have a coma or something?
Yeah, so like initially like the COVID patients that survived, that they were extubated, they were able to breathe on their own. They, once your muscles don't move for like 12 hours, they atrophy. So imagine being intubated and sedated and not moving for 2.5 weeks. They could barely move. They were so weak. They couldn't swallow. They could barely speak. So what I mostly do in the hospital is I do evaluations of swallowing, which she describes in the book. So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe like she actually described that. Because most people like think of speech therapy and they're like, oh, you help people talk. I'm like, yeah, no, not really, but not all the time. Like that's not like my main job, like I'm in the hospital especially. So we do like the swallow evaluations and then we do therapy to like rehab the swallow. So with the COVID patients, a lot of the times, like in the beginning, it was once they were extubated, we had to like make sure they were safe to eat. And a lot of them weren't because it takes a long time for that to recover. So we did therapy with them. Last summer after the Delta wave, I only had like maybe 3 or 4 that survived that they ended up with like a trach tube in their neck because they couldn't breathe on their own. So they could never be fully extubated. They had to have a tube in their neck to breathe.
Forever?
Because the tube, no, it's not forever, but like the tube that goes in the mouth into the lungs, when they're intubated, they can't be intubated for more than like 2 or 3 weeks. So that has to come out. And the solution, if they can't breathe on their own after that period of time, is the tube in the neck. So we come in, we put a speaking valve on so that they can speak again, and that restores like the subglottic pressure that we need to speak, to swallow, to walk, to like lift heavy things. So I was able to do that with like a bunch of the COVID patients last summer. So that's what I do with them.
Oh, very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, the rest of you, how did you feel about reading about COVID in 2020?
I was freaking out because I started reading it. I'll tell you when I started reading it. I started reading it on the 1st of January. And then on the 3rd, my first son came home and tested positive for COVID after 2.5 years of, you can't go anywhere, wash your hands, wear a mask, Purell yourself until you're peeling, you know, that kind of thing. And he tested positive that day. So then everybody went under quarantine and everybody went under lockdown. And he was fine. He was fine from the get-go. He didn't have anything. But then it was just like, do I want to read about this? But I think what pushed me through was reading how terrible it was in comparison to what was actually happening in my house, which, you know, now I look back, you know, to the past 3 weeks, and it really, yeah, it's been more psychologically nerve-wracking and, you know, just traumatic for me mentally than it has been physically for, you know, my kids, 2 of them, 2 out of 3 who tested positive and got it, you know, one after the other. So, but I was just like, do I want to read this? You know, and then I thought, when I first started reading, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's about COVID, but not really, because here you're thinking, oh, you know, tremendo love story. Oh, she's going and she's going to dump the boyfriend and whatever, and it's going to be all wonderful. And, you know, what a reprieve from real life and all that. And then you get hit with the bomb in the middle of the book and you're like, oh, hell, you know, it's like, no, it's like reality check. But I think it was a reality check for all of us too, you know, when you're reading it. Because it's like you get lost in it, but then you're reminded of the severity of the actual, you know, situation, which I think we tend to forget because we're so over it and so tired and so just, you know, enough. We just want to get back to some kind of normal life. But it was hard, like, to get through it. It's like having somebody have surgery and then watching Grey's Anatomy the next day. You know, like, you never watch a medical drama the same way again, and you don't know if you want to sit through it because you've just gone through something so traumatic. So it was that kind of feeling, but I'm glad I suckered through and got there. I couldn't put it down.
Yay. Okay, we have 2 people joined us since. Rhonda and Jenna. Hi, we just started. Everybody just introduced themselves, and now we're just talking about how it was reading about COVID during COVID. And Lydia, I'm going to agree with you. No matter how weak or strong you get it, it does mess with your head. Mm-hmm. If you remember the last book club, I was recovering from COVID and had multiple coughing attacks during our meeting. And my whole family had it all at once, my boyfriend, my parents. And even though we had it strong, but not so bad, even though we did have one of them in the hospital for a week. I think I was actually talking to a friend the other day who has COVID, but not very strong. And it messes up with your head because you're just thinking, like, how much worse is it going to get? Like, I still have 10 days. Am I going to end up in the hospital? Is it going to get worse later? So it's like the fear of the unknown.
Yeah, you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. You're okay now, but what about tomorrow morning? You know? And I'm creeping into my room, like looking at the covers, you know, with an N95 in the middle of the night to make sure that they're breathing. You know, you're just, it messes with your head. That's the worst part. That really is the worst part. And I think the book does a great way of showing how it really messes with your head, because I think that was, you know, her physical things she got through, but the head thing.
Yeah.
How do you go over that?
Yeah.
How do you get over that?
In addition to that, I'd like to say that, I mean, personally, and Lydia knows how crazy I am. We have been super, like, hunkered down over COVID. My husband and daughter both have, like, a blood clotting condition. And, you know, when we first started hearing about it and people would just, like, healthy people would, you know, just drop dead from COVID, it turned out to all be about blood clots. But aside from that, and, like, you know, everything that you, Michelle, and Lydia have just said, for me, I think that it was so great to tell the story, including the perspective of the healthcare workers.
Yes.
They are true heroes. And it's just, to me, it upsets me that, you know, some people don't want to take precautions, and it's just a comment, not to, like, belabor the issue. But I feel bad for these healthcare workers that are day in, day out trying to save all of these people's lives. And like Alexis pointed out, you know, haven't been able to process what happened in 2020, much less everything that's continuing to happen. So I think that it really sheds light on how selfless the healthcare workers are, from the paramedics that pick you up to the doctors and the nurses and the speech therapists and just any therapist that deals with, you know, this whole madness, and how they, you know, were so affected by the people that were dying and that they couldn't be with their families. I mean, you know, as a Hispanic, you know, it's unfathomable for a relative to be in the hospital without you there. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the perspective that for me, it hit me more, you know what I mean? Just because I felt like they really are the unsung heroes. I mean, yes, you know, the whole New York thing with the pots and pans and stuff like that. But still, it's like day in and day out when people are sick of COVID and people don't, you know, yes, everybody's over it. I get that, but they're still showing up, and, you know, there's not enough healthcare workers now to cover shifts. And like the guy that had to do like 2 and 3 shifts at once, like, I think that's very real. And when you're not in it, I don't think you really think about that so much. So I think that for me was one of the things that I'm really glad that they shed light on, you know.
There's a part in the book that like it made me bawl, because it was so like, it put me back to like the first COVID patient that I ever saw, like the part where she's getting physical therapy, that the physical therapist just like goes in and like grabs her and gets really close to her. And she was taken aback because nobody would get close to her. Mm-hmm. And it just made me start crying so much, because it put me back into like that first day when I went into the COVID patient's room for the first time with my friend that's a physical therapist. We decided to co-treat because she needed help getting the patient out of bed, and I needed her to get the patient in the chair so I could feed him. So we helped each other, and we both like did that. We got in there, we like grabbed him to pick him up, and it's like we weren't thinking about how close we were. We weren't thinking about whether we could get it or not. And I didn't even think about like how the nurses and the doctors won't go in the rooms. Like they stay outside, they try to talk to the patient from outside or on the phone. But we were just like, so like, we need to help these people. We didn't even think about anything else. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, wow. And like she captured that so perfectly in those few sentences.
It's true. I mean, I just think that, you know, the average person doesn't think about it because we're so obsessed of not getting it, or if, you know, you or your family member does get it, like, where do you go from here? You know what I mean? But I don't know, you know, how many people really stop to think of everything that it entails for the healthcare workers, you know? Yeah. So that's my 2 cents for now.
All good topics. Okay. My next question is about the storyline about the Galapagos. When Diana was trapped in the Galapagos, unable to return to New York due to the travel restrictions, but she managed to make friends and explore the island every day. Do you think she should have been more or less isolated if she would have stayed in the city? And with that question, would you have stayed if you were her, or would you have gone back on the boat?
Oh no, that's an easy one, Michelle. I would have gone back on the boat right away. I would be like, I'm not staying here by myself on a deserted island where I don't speak the language. I'm out of here. That's it. But I think she would have actually been more alone if she would have gone back, because they lived in an apartment in New York City where people weren't able to like leave, you know, or go out and even walk around. And her fiance was at the hospital all the time. Like he was never home. So she would have definitely been more isolated, I think.
I don't think she knew when she was jumping on that boat or getting off that boat, like the extent of it. You know, she's like, I'm getting here finally after all this time on my vacation. You know, he said it was all right. You know, I mean, it wouldn't have been a story without it.
I mean, remember, we all thought it was just for 2 weeks.
Sure.
2 weeks.
Exactly. We thought it was just for 2 weeks, and it was just a little thing.
Yeah. No, but they told her the island is closing.
For 2 weeks.
Like, okay, I'm leaving. Even for 2 weeks. I'm not going to stay by myself where I don't speak the language for 2 weeks.
I mean, it was 2 books in one.
It gave me major anxiety that she was staying there, and like I felt trapped for her. I was like, "What are you doing?"
You already knew.
And it could be hindsight is 2020, but I was like, "What are you doing? Go back! You are trapped." Like,
I thought the
how are
same
you gonna
thing.
do this?
I was more worried
You're
about her
seeing
not
these
having luggage.
views, and you're seeing all this beauty, and you're like, you know, what is in here? What is, you know, what's gonna happen?
I thought it was
don't know.
funny, like remembering that we thought it was only gonna be like 2 weeks.
Be
I was
2
like
weeks.
laughing. I was like, that was so
Yeah.
cute. That was funny that we thought it was gonna be over. No, never.
I mean, I literally went into it thinking it was one kind of book, and then it, you know, it was
I
almost
didn't
like
even
two
know
books.
what it was about. I had no
Yeah,
idea what it was
same,
about.
same. When I
I was like, oh,
started
this is the
reading, I
book
was
club.
like,
Okay, I'm gonna read it.
and then I read the back, and I was like, oh, because sometimes I don't read like the before.
I never read those things.
But
I'm glad that Alexis
exactly.
blindly trusts the pick, by the way.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay, I'll read it.
I didn't know what it was about either, and I was like, okay, I haven't read, you know, for Michelle's book club. I'm gonna do it. And when I opened up and I saw March 13th, 2020, I was like, oh, wait a second. This is the day that we shut down.
Yep.
And then I had to go and research. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to start reading about COVID now. Okay.
But I almost like the love story more than the other, like when she went back to New York. I was all into the love story. And
Really?
you know,
Oh
Galapagos.
yeah, I
was
like the Galapagos part a lot more.
Me too. We're getting there. We're getting
I
there.
agree.
And it was a tease, that one part, right? Where like you're when she's dreaming, and then it's like that she comes out of the comes back from the drowning, and you're like,
oh,
is she
yeah.
back? Oh my god! And then
I know.
I'm like
I know.
super interested in this whole that whole phenomenon of like dreaming and like, are you in the real world or not?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know if that, like, I'm sure it happens to like a lot of people. Like, I want to know of people's experiences. Like, I'm gonna start asking patients.
That was one
Yeah,
of
that's
okay,
very,
so
that's very
one of my
interesting.
questions. You guys are skipping ahead here.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
That was my fault.
One of
I'll
my
mute
questions
myself.
was, do you think the unconscious lucid dreams like Diana's have meaning? Are these experiences real? And then I was gonna ask those of you in the medical industry, Michelle, you used to be a nurse. Are these for real? Like, can this really happen?
I didn't used to be a nurse. I am
You
a nurse.
are a nurse, but not in a hospital.
But I'm also a teacher. I just don't work in the hospital. I teach nursing. But no, I don't think they're real. Like, what was your question? Like, if I think they're living in a real alternate world?
No, like, are these lucid dreams?
Like, have you
that really
heard
happen?
other people with these same kind of stories?
Yes, people have lots and lots of dreams. When I was a procedure nurse for a long time, and they would be under anesthesia or they would be under propofol, they would wake up and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I had the most amazing dream!" Like, but they knew it was a dream. They never thought it was real. So I never had that experience.
They feel like it's real?
No, none of my patients, or I've never heard of somebody who had thought it was a real thing. They always knew that it was a dream.
Like,
but
and that
I
it
mean,
never
does that
lasted
exist?
like
Maybe.
that long.
I had surgery
Exactly.
in October, and when I woke up, I said something about the beach. But like the minute after I said it, I realized I was in a hospital. But like, she really felt like her
like it was real. Yeah,
real.
That's super trippy to me. I don't know.
And
I've
that
had
it lasted
stories
so
of
long.
patients, but like patients that'll tell me that they see like, you know, their dead family members, or like they saw themselves like from somewhere up above in the hospital room, but I've never heard of like that lucid, like,
yeah,
to
no,
me
neither.
that they think it's real.
To me, the dream was so weird because you normally dream like one-dimensional dreams. Like, these people had backstories to them.
Right.
Like, they had like a whole life. It wasn't just whatever she was encountering at the moment. Like, they were three-dimensional family in here.
It was like a parallel world kind of thing. What she was thinking.
Yeah.
That is like, you know, which is bizarre. Like, it's crazy.
Okay, so you've never heard of that happening?
No, I have not. I mean, maybe it does exist, but I've never encountered that.
Well, in the author's note, she said like the stories she used as examples of when Diana like Googles it were actual stories of real people.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was.
It.
I think that was kind of cool. I still think that, you know, there's so much about this world that we don't know. And I really like that she had that connection with her best friend that the sister was, you know, from New Orleans,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that, you know, she had her own way of thinking, etc. But to me, I don't know. I know it sounds crazy, and it sounds like, you know, there's no way that it could possibly happen. And I think that's what frustrated her so much, was the fact that, you know, there were so many backstories to her people in her dream, you know, or what she really believed to be what was happening in her life. I don't know. I just feel like you just don't know.
Yeah, there's also so much, like, the brain is so powerful that, like, I don't know. I think anything's possible.
Like,
I've heard of older people when they they're under and they come out of anesthesia, like elderly people, they come out and they are, you know, I've seen it firsthand with, you know, my grandparents, with my dad. They just come out of the anesthesia and they're just like talking to you about,
yeah,
think they totally see it, believe it, and you're like, but what are you talking about? No, I'm right here. No,
right, they're like hallucinate a little bit,
buying bananas. No, what are you talking about? I've been sitting in this chair for 5 hours waiting for you to wake up, you know?
Yeah.
Or you
very
think
real,
of,
it's very
like,
vivid. Absolutely.
near-death experiences, people. Yeah, you think of people that stories on near-death experience and how they see loved ones, or they see, you know, the afterworld, or their version of heaven, or, you know, things like that. I think that more I connected with. I think she was like so close to death that maybe she was in that her version of like a heaven, or what she thinks would have been the afterlife, or something like that.
Well, towards when she actually does, you know, get there, and she's looking for things that she saw before. It's funny because she doesn't see, you know, what she thought she would.
Yes.
But you sort of get like the understanding that there are things that she's seeing that she has seen before. You know what I mean? Like, I looked for this place.
Subconscious.
And then she goes, oh, it's probably because I saw it in the guidebook. You know, she starts making rationalizations of what, that kind of thing. But you always think, you're like, could it have been, was the guidebook that compelling that it just, you know, burned itself into her brain? Like, Michelle,
I think the same thing. Sometimes when I have dreams, I'm like, how did I know that artist? Or if I'm dreaming about art, or like a place, I'm like, how did I know that city? How did I know what I was dreaming of? And if I've never really heard of it, but exactly, I must.
That's like when you see somebody in your dream.
Somewhere.
When you see somebody in your dream that you've never seen before, that's the scariest thing to me, because it's like, where did that face come from?
Like, why do we just
it's like, or you
saw on Instagram,
that you've been there, and I think that's what she was feeling. But you know, you have to wonder, you're like, you know, that's Michelle, what I was saying is like, that's props to the travel writers and the people who write the guidebooks, because if that burned itself into
I mean, that's some talent.
Takes you to a lot of different
that's
places.
some kind of guidebook, right?
That's what I liked about it. It took you to a lot of different places, this book, you know, and then you think about a lot of different
things. Yeah.
I'm circling back to her making the decision to stay in the island. Has there ever been like a split second decision that you had to make like that changed your life?
It's a rough one.
I don't know about split second, but
a couple seconds.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think so. I don't think I take a long time to decide things sometimes. Too long sometimes.
Like, weigh everything out to death.
Yeah.
I feel like everything is a decision. Everything is a split second decision. A decision where you're going to work from one place to another, where your kid is going to go to school from one second to another. Everything is a decision in life. And sometimes it's 1 or 2 days that you have to make the decision, but it changes the course of
your,
who you are, who your friends are, who your kids' friends are, who your coworkers are, who you socialize with. Everything is kind of like that in life.
This is not book club related, but the TV show Ordinary Joe.
Yes.
Watched it.
Oh,
it's based on that theme. Like,
Yeah.
follows his life with, he made one decision one day, and the three different routes
Outcomes.
he could take based
Yeah.
on, like, the simplest thing, like meeting somebody in the summer or not. And then it follows his life, how it changed through different courses, through all three different scenes. So like every episode is like a similar time, and then how different his life was in all three options.
But the same people are kind of in it,
Yeah.
you know? For me, I personally don't know that I would have stayed. Like, I don't think I would have. You know, kind of like a chicken in that regard. So part of me was like, yes, she stayed, you know, like, let's see what's going to happen to her, you know, to her life, and how that was going to work out for her, you know, thinking again that it was going to be 2 weeks, but, you know, it ended up being a lot longer than that.
She was being adventurous for you.
Mm-hmm.
I would have stayed.
I would have stayed if I would have.
Me.
You know what? It reminds me when Y2K, remember? Y2K and how they
Yes.
said
Yeah.
crash and burn like at midnight on the year 2000.
You either stayed home or you went out, right?
Okay, no, I actually had booked a trip by myself with just me, to go on this trip. And I had my plane ticket and I had everything ready to go, and I had bought all my clothes, and I was just packed and I was ready to go.
Knowing you could get stuck because the computers were supposed to break that night.
Well, long story short, I did not go. Like Olga said,
that sounds more like
chicken.
you.
She's a chicken, and I'm like chicken little. I'm like chickens. I'm just like the worst. I was so, you know, it came down to like, I remember having a conversation with my parents. I was like, okay, you're leaving tomorrow, we'll take you, whatever. And I was just like, oh my God, no, I don't know if I can do this, because I was actually flying on the 31st, you know, so I would be in the air.
No.
Knowing like all your information could be lost while you're mid-flight.
It's crazy.
No, I thought the plane was gonna blow up with me in it, you know, like the computers were gonna go crazy. Well, I ended up not going. It wasn't a big deal, you know, in the grand scheme. It wasn't like, oh, I regret it for the rest of my life or whatever. It wasn't like that much of a big deal. But I had to say, okay, it was like sort of the same thing. What do you do? Because I thought, well, what if the plane blows up? Or what if I get stuck somewhere? And then how do I get back? Or what if everything crashes? You know, I'm across the Atlantic Ocean. I was going
with no money.
With nothing, with no money, with no credit cards, because
that was my biggest fear, was like the banks were gonna forget what money I had, and I was gonna be with like no money.
I never thought of this that I just said reading this book. Like all this conversation right now just made me think, oh yeah, you know.
You would have been like Diana, no access to an ATM machine.
Nothing.
I was dying.
No internet.
If I make it over there, I'm never going to come back, and I'm not going to have any money, and I'm going to be like living on the street or whatever for Lord knows how long, and I'm by myself. No, I was like, no, I'm not. And then you know, you had to hear people telling you, like, you should have, look, nothing happened. Yeah, well, how the hell was that? You know?
Crazy how she survived. No internet, no other.
No.
Made it happen. We made it happen. She made it happen.
No way.
Okay, now for the love story that you guys are all dying to talk about. Think about Diana and Gabriel's relationship evolves during the course of the book. How does their understanding of one another compare to the way Diana and Finn relate?
It's deeper.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think between her and Gabriel is deeper, but maybe since it was all a dream, that's what she really wanted from the relationship from her and Finn.
Do you guys really think it's deeper, or we just like didn't get to know Finn that much?
No, I think
his
that
work
she,
emails.
I think craving something that she wasn't getting.
Yeah, I think that she had her life so planned to a T that it was like, today I'm gonna do this, and tomorrow I'm gonna do this, and the next time I'm gonna do this, that it didn't give her an opportunity to like feel in the moment. Like, you know, like how everybody like now lives like this. And then they don't actually live the moment. That's how she was living. Like she had, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and everything is exactly the same as we wanted it. There's no evolution in their relationship. And I think with Gabriel, she was feeling it every day. She had no choice. There was no plan. It was like
she was sporadic with him.
Yeah, but also going from
you know, something that we live every day, just like all of us live our routine every day, to this beautiful island and these beautiful, you know, visions. And I'm on vacation, and I would fall in love on vacation all the time. I feel like, you know, it doesn't matter where we are. I'll be like, oh yes, you're beautiful. I love you. You know, I'm having a great time. I don't know, you know, it was more like of a fantasy, but yes, she got deep with his daughter and the whole, that connection. But I ended up really loving Finn after. Like, what a good man, right?
I was
Survive
rooting for Finn
her
the
and
whole
talk
time.
to her every day when
Yeah.
she was in the hospital. And like, maybe that's what made her have all these like illusions, because remember, it was like connecting her, like she remembered things that he said when she was in the hospital. Is like, why did I think of that? Maybe it was something he said or things like that. I was
That's
like,
a great point. Yeah.
yeah. Like I ended up loving Finn and feeling really bad for Finn at the end, even though I really loved the connection that they had in the Galapagos and the daughter and the whole, I loved it. I was sold. I was like, I'm staying forever. But then when Finn came back, I was like, oh, I really love Finn. It was hard.
Right? Nothing wrong with him. I think it was something wrong with her.
Yeah.
She did not belong with him. He was great, but she did not belong with him.
I think it just shows how, like, when you go through something really big in your life and it changes you as a person, if the person, like, if your partner is not the right one, then they're not gonna like be there for that. They're not gonna be there for you as you change, as you grow. And like, I think that happened with Finn. Like, he couldn't understand why she was so different, and like, there's no way she could ever be the same again. And I don't know if any of you have ever lost somebody that's close to you, like a loved one, and like you don't come back from that. Like, it changes you as a person. And if the person that you're with doesn't support you, isn't there for you while you're going through those changes and while you're like feeling it, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
I know, because it happened to me. It's not going to work.
I think Finn changed too. I think that everything
Oh, yeah.
that he saw
I think,
and everything that he experienced, like, changed him. And like you said, I don't think you can come back from that.
You can't
And
come back from it.
She had a very different experience with COVID, and she survived it. And I think like she wanted to, you know, go and see her mom and go walk. And he was very like, you have to stay inside. You can't, you know. And so I feel like their experiences with the same trauma kind of pushed them apart in a way. Like, they grew in different ways. And I think I didn't love him. I'm sorry. Like, I feel like he was really good on paper, and I'm sure like he was a good person, but like Glenda said, I don't think they were right for each other in the end. And I think it took that trauma to realize that they weren't good for each other.
I think it's very telling that like he ended up with the other nurse.
Yes.
Yeah. They both went through like the same experience. They both went through the same trauma. They can relate to each other.
Yeah.
I also think.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think that sometimes like we try to plan too much in our lives. And that's something that I personally has happened to me. You know, you think this is what I'm going to do by this age, and this is what I'm going to do by this. I'm going to have like, you know, this many kids, and I'm going to have this. And sometimes life doesn't work out that way. So to me, it's kind of like, you know, just another, I don't know, like reminder that you can plan, but you have to roll with it too, because your plans don't always work out.
But did she suck him into this plan?
Maybe,
you know, until she had this, you know, dream and you know, hopes and wonders of what could be, because we don't know if she ends up happy. Yeah, maybe
she needed.
That last line thinks, oh, maybe, but we don't know if she ends up happy or lonely or we don't know what. But there was a seed planted in her head that maybe the grass would be greener on the other side, but maybe it won't. You know what I mean?
I think it would.
But if that seed was never planted, would he have even thought of anything else? Or would she have even thought of anything else if they just kept living their life?
She compartmentalized her life before, and then she went through this and she got in a coma, and she had these dreams and all this. And when she came out of it, she was a completely different person. She was forgiving. She was not as rigid. she embraced her art, because before it wasn't that. She forgave.
Yes, that's a big part of it. Art.
I think she saw that she needed to heal, and I think that coma was, I mean, metaphorically speaking, her
breakthrough,
healing. Because when she came out of it, her body was broken and she had to learn how to speak and how to eat and how to walk and how to do all that. But mentally, it brought up all these things that she needed to come to terms with, because she was
you're right.
She was putting her mom, oh, whatever, my mom's a total bitch. She can just, who cares? She's dead. Oh, big deal. I don't care. When she thought that, the boyfriend, he was very two-dimensional for me.
I don't know if he was two-dimensional or like that's what we got because we were.
That's what she wanted you to get.
Michelle's dying because her next question is about the mom, I'm sure.
No, I'm still on Finn. Personally, I liked Finn. And every time Kathy or Glenda were like, "Did you get to the part?" I kept telling them, if she cheats on Finn, I hate this book. Like
I was rooting on her.
He was still with him, and he was like,
disappointed. I was disappointed.
You guys didn't see
they were sexy.
The comparison between Gabriel and her father, but it's like literally.
But I mean, like Finn cared for her. We only saw like his part of like his job. We didn't get their like normal day-to-day.
That's why I say it's
part of the story.
It was two-dimensional because he's a good person. He's a doctor. He's in the front lines. He's killing himself. We saw that, but we didn't see
his background, his parents, how he grew up, like what
we saw. By the time I'm 30, we'll be married and we'll have 2 kids and we'll have this house in New Jersey.
Yeah,
he's totally suffocated her after she came out of the coma and was herself. But also, like he thought she was gonna die.
Give her wings.
Like he was overprotective of her because he's like, I thought I wasn't gonna have you.
You were gonna
die.
I have you.
Yeah, that changed him. Like thinking he was gonna lose her, that completely changed him. On top of everything else he had to do for his job.
Yeah, and I was very upset about like the cheating, even though it wasn't real at the end. I'm like, send him an email and break up. Like, before you go on.
I wasn't. I was like, oh yeah, he's the other guy is just like a placeholder. This is the real guy. Like I was just like already like, oh yeah, she's getting back to simple things. I think even the choice of how she took her art and she took it to the highest level she could possibly, like, that whole Yoko Ono reference, that whole like the epitome of the art world. I mean, the coup de grace of working for one of these auction houses, as opposed to living on an island with a t-shirt that isn't yours, 1 pair of underwear, a bathing suit and a pair of flip-flops. It's like,
and getting back to your artist soul and bargaining and bartering for things
and I'm gonna draw you a picture.
I would live that life right now. Give me the option. I'm going.
Did anybody know, like, did anybody Google, is that real, like, of Yoko Ono with a painting? Did that even exist, or she just made that all up?
That's exactly what I thought of when I was reading it.
Yeah,
Yoko Ono and John Lennon, the whole thing. That's exactly.
But I'm wondering if like there was really a painting that they ever had that was famous, or something. I don't know.
It's possible. I love the Beatles.
I googled it, but I couldn't find anything.
I have a book, maybe.
But I noticed right away what it was. I was like, okay,
it was very obvious.
It was really obvious who it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Which I wonder why she chose that. I wonder why.
I agree.
Like
maybe it's because something everybody could connect with and would, be like, oh, I know that story.
Yeah.
Next question. What do you think Diana was able to form such a why do you think Diana was able to form such a close bond with Beatrice? And what did the book teach us about mental health and how to help those who are struggling? I don't know how she made up that whole backstory in a dream.
I know, that was a lot.
I think Beatrice was a reflection of her in a lot of ways. It was like a version of her, like with the relationship with the mom and how her mom just kind of was like aloof and left. It was like her in another, I don't know, kind of like a parallel world. Not so much with like the self-hurting, but she kept saying that she knew a girl that self-hurt when she was young. So I feel like that story kind of fused with her own. But I felt like Beatrice was her in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. That's a really cool perspective. Anybody else? Rhonda, you're quiet today.
Wait, I forgot. Wait, what are we talking about? Beatrice?
Beatrice and like the cutting and like how did she form such a strong relationship with her, and what did the book just about mental health?
The daughter. Oh yeah.
Well, I think that at least like the way that it started off, like she wasn't so pushy and she kind of just wanted to let her know that she was there if she wanted to talk or if she wanted her to help her. And as a teacher, I think that, you know, I mean, I taught middle school for forever. Now I do virtual high school. But still, I think that you kind of, you know, you're not like in their circle, but you kind of are, you know what I mean? Because now she was someone that Beatrice could see on a daily basis, like have a constant. So I think that it was kind of like that. Like sometimes you're more inclined to open up to someone that you don't really know, but you're starting to, you know, build a relationship with and you trust versus, you know, your day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it manifested from her relationship with her friend or that girl that she went to high school with that she saw cutting, and maybe she felt that she never said anything in the moment, and that's why she manifested that in that dream. So maybe it was like a little bit of guilt from that relationship with her and her friend that she never, you know, said something about it or she didn't intervene, and that's why I think it came back in her subconscious when she was
and now that she's older, because that happened when she was a kid.
Exactly, in retrospect.
So
yes,
now that she's older, like what she should have done. Right.
It came out as
I agree.
Processing
100%.
it. Okay. We already talked about the big twist in the book. What did you think about the revelation that Diana didn't physically get stranded on Isabel Island? And my question is, did you see this coming or did it surprise you?
I didn't see it coming, and it shocked me. Like Lydia kept asking me, when, where are you? What part are you? And then when I got to that part, I'm like, no, like I was so disappointed that it wasn't true.
I read it and I was like,
same.
Yes,
because I never read the back of the book. I only read. Remember when you said that if you buy the book, you'll get like a preview?
Yeah, did you read it?
So I got the preview. Okay, so the preview was about, it wasn't about anything that had to do with that.
It was her mom.
It was about her mom and how she was asked and how she was a photographer for like, I feel like it was like something like National Geographic, but it was something like, you know, like she would go on different places and it dealt with only that. So that's what I thought the whole book was about. Something about the mother and the father and, you know, the reconnecting and the separating and her being absent. I had no idea it had to do with COVID at the beginning. So it was a shock to me. I was shocked.
I kept thinking that maybe Finn was gonna appear, like somehow make it to the island to join her, like while she was with Gabriel, and that was like the big shock that was gonna happen. But never did I think that, or no.
It wasn't real, right?
Yeah.
I was like, it's real. This is happening.
In hindsight, I was like, now it makes sense why only his communications came in and hers never went out. Like, and they were like very sporadic, so it must have been whatever she was hearing at the time. It's so weird. Okay, so nobody saw it coming.
No, I think
that was so shocking.
I don't think I've ever read like such a surprising, shocking twist in a book ever. And I'm a huge reader. Like I'm on like my 4th book of the year.
Alexis,
so, like,
I was about to say the same thing. I don't remember ever reading a book where I've had such a like twist where I'm like, what?
Ever. And so like good at the same time. Like it wasn't something like I hated. It was just like I loved it.
Awesome.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing. Like I can't believe she did that.
I joined that book discussion she did the day the book was released. Obviously, she's not going to give out any spoilers, but the author who interviewed her was Emily Henry, and they didn't even hint at it. Like they talked about the Galapagos and like COVID and the doctors, obviously from like Finn's perspective, but like nowhere at all did they mention a twist. So I was not expecting anything.
Wow. I think that's one of the reasons why it was so good and we all liked it so much.
Awesome.
Because it floored you.
And it didn't make it like a standard COVID book. Like you're not reading like someone got sick and was in the hospital for 5 months.
Right.
It's been harder to read.
Yeah.
And I didn't even want to spoil that there was a twist, like, because it was just so out of left field. Like I remember I was at dinner with a friend that was 20 pages ahead of me, and we were talking, and then the next day I got home and was reading more, and I got to that part, and then I texted her and I go, have you read any more? And she said, no, I haven't read anymore. I go, but she was going out to dinner. I go, you should probably read when you get home. Like, I didn't even want to say anything other than you should read a little bit more. Read like the next 20 pages or so.
That's what I kept telling Olga. I'm like, yeah, just keep reading. Just read some more. Okay, keep reading. Because I was just like, didn't feel like it was just the end of one book and the start of another.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the way she transitioned with a one-line chapter.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
So my Audible was broken when that whole thing happened.
It was definitely 2 books. It was 2 books.
It was like chapter this, chapter that, and I was like, "Is this thing skipping what?" And I kept going back.
That's funny.
Okay, so those of you who did read the prequel, it was all about her relationship with her mom and how her mom was an absent parent. She would go off and take photos for this National Geographic magazine, and even when her dad and her surprised her once, there was like a big storm coming, and she left them like in the house that they were at and went to chase the storm. So she was all about her career first, and I mean, she made it. She had photos in a museum and stuff. So now my questions is about her and her mother's relationship. So Diana and her mother have a complicated relationship. By the end of the novel, Diana understands her mom much better and is finally able to forgive her. What do you think allowed Diana to forgive? And in what ways do our relationships with our parents, even when they are tense, define who we are?
I think she was able to forgive because of what she went through. I think that experience made her forgiving and made her more sensible. Yeah, I think if she would have never gone through what she went through, she would have regretted not forgiving her mom when her mom passed away. If that makes sense.
She actually like went through it in the topic. Like she thought she lost her mom and feeling that regret. It's like almost like she got a second chance,
right?
For sure, she had a second chance on. I feel like on everything. Her perspective in life itself.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like it was that moment when her and her mom laid in the bed together, or were going through it, where her mom actually told her what she was going through at that moment, that she was able to forgive her mother about, because she knew that her father would be a better parent to her and be there when she couldn't. And I feel like that was how she was able to forgive her. I don't remember exactly what she said because I read this one right when we picked it. Does anybody remember exactly what was that moment?
Well, she told the story of like how she really left her, right? Like
she left her in
the house, like going
or something like that. I don't remember.
I think she was going to the doctor and then she forgot her.
Yeah.
And then she talked about the picture that she
took. Right. When she was supposed to take her to the doctor.
And then she realized that she wasn't going to be a good parent because she left her and she forgot.
I wonder if the mother, because of that realization of her being a terrible parent,
she separated herself.
Yes. And she had some type of depression when it came to being with her in the same room, maybe. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, she just felt bad.
Yeah, she felt that it would be worse if she stayed in her life because that could happen again.
Right.
Yeah. It was a possibility that she could be
or do something even worse. Like
do something even worse. Maybe not leave her at home for a little while, but maybe do something worse. Yeah.
I also think the experience of her thinking that her mom died in her dream life.
Yeah, that helped.
That and like how little reaction she had helped her because she came back and was like, I have a second chance. Like my mom is now. Let me repair it before she's actually dead.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. I love that she
Mhm.
went and she, you know, sat
And
outside
she-
her balcony
yes,
and
they had the
read
picnic.
together. And
Yeah.
I was kind of like, this
really
lady doesn't deserve it. Like, you're doing way too much.
Yeah,
No, but
part of
I
me
feel
felt like that too, but I feel like she did it more for herself than
Yes.
exactly.
Mhm.
I think she
than
did it
for
for
her
Yeah.
mom.
this. She would have regretted it. I mean, if I don't want to say if you're a good person, but at the end of the day, if you didn't do it for yourself and that person passes away, you're gonna regret it because you
Mhm.
didn't do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just gonna regret it. I feel like she did it for herself more than her
Mhm.
mom.
I
Her
also
mom-
think she had the best possible outcome of the situation where she was in. You know, I think they
Yeah.
ended in a good place.
Mhm.
I don't think her mom even would have realized except for that one little minute. you
The
know?
Yeah.
lucid moment
Yeah.
right before,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that they say if you read a lot about that, you get that lucidity right before
Mhm.
you're about to pass.
Mhm.
Wow.
Okay, we talked about Finn a little bit, but one more. What is your reaction to Diana's increasing certainty that marrying Finn isn't what she wants for herself at all? Have you ever realized that the plans you have for your future don't align with your desires?
Yes.
I think COVID did this to a lot of us.
Yes. I think it changed our values. It changed how we look at life. It changed everything.
Well, and again, I think that it's, you know, it was not easy for her to say, I don't want to be with you anymore type
Mhm.
thing. So I feel like, you know, it once again, she was courageous in, you know, trying to do what was right, although it was, you know, not easy to do.
Mhm.
I know she loved him on one level, but not, you know, someone that she was in love with in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it was very courageous of her to let go of the security that she knew she was gonna have of the marriage, of possibly kids,
Mhm.
that she kind of liked. Yeah, I feel like that takes courage for you to go into the unknown, because like we were discussing earlier, she was like, for example, I'm gonna have kids by 35 and I'm gonna be married by this point. And at the end of the book, she didn't even know where she was in life, but she knew that she didn't want to be with him.
Right.
To know what was out there for her, even if it was not with another person. I feel like it was just her being a different person in this new life that she's having, like a second chance in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like she blew up her whole little timeline to for the unknown to see what happens.
I was crushed in the scene where Finn sees like the brochure for the master's program, and he was like, "What is this? Like, why are you even thinking?" That's what I didn't like.
Yeah, he blames the money because she wasn't making any money.
I know, and part of me was like, "Man, girl, you probably should work because we don't know how long this is gonna last." But also, like, I don't know. I felt like on the island, she was so encouraged to like pursue her gift, and like he kind of shut it down in a way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that bothered me so much. I was like,
know.
Me too.
"Mm-mm."
Yeah, look where she paints on the back of the dresser, and then he
Yes.
kind of like just turns to, instead of like, you know, celebrating it, she's been through this trauma, and like
Mhm.
maybe having it turned around just for some time being, you know, until maybe she decides, okay, let's flip it back the way it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
Like he kind of just like,
Yeah.
no, let's forget about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they couldn't adapt, I think, to each other's evolution, like how they changed. They
How
couldn't
they
adapt.
changed.
Totally.
Well, she changed, but he just stayed in that whole routine of the pandemic. He was in
Yeah.
that. And
I mean,
she
yeah, the
changed
pandemic
because
changed him. Yeah.
Yeah, the pandemic definitely changed him.
It changed her too, but in different ways.
In different ways.
in
yeah,
different ways.
I felt
Exactly.
like made her, like we just said, courageous, and made her herself better, know herself better, what
Mhm.
herself, know what she was supposed to be or have.
Yeah.
And for him, I think it did like the opposite. Like he
Yeah.
became very stifling and more scared, and
Mhm.
just
I
you
agree.
know, he kind
That's
of
trusting.
he didn't grow in the same way as her.
Yeah.
But they had two completely different experiences. She was free and he was
Right.
like seeing death.
Just like I'm sure half of us have had one experience and
Mhm.
half of us have had a different experience.
Mhm.
Depends on your career, your path, your who you're married to, how many people you've had in your life that have gotten affected by, you know, the coronavirus. Everybody has a different take on it. That's why it's so crazy. How you approach life right now, because you could run into somebody that has lost people from the pandemic, and you could run into somebody that's like, oh, why are you testing every day, or why are you wearing a mask still, or and you don't know how to approach one from the other because you don't know what each person has dealt with. So yeah, it's really rough.
The one questionnaire probably hasn't had anybody near them get COVID badly, and the one being very cautious probably lost somebody close to them. So
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, if we'll talk about it, I just stay quiet because everybody has such a different opinions, even close friends of mine. And I'm like, COVID has become like religion and politics. They cannot talk with friends.
COVID has torn up friendships.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
COVID has changed the way that humanity interacts with each other. And it's brought out the ugliness in humanity. It's brought out the goodness and it's brought out the ugliness.
I agree.
But it also has brought out
selfish people that don't care about
of intolerance that probably was hidden has just come out to the surface because it's just as you say, some people it's affected, some people it hasn't, and everybody has their opinions. But I think that the important thing is respecting those opinions, and I think that the line of respect is blurred.
That was what I was gonna say exactly. I mean, the one key word in this whole thing is empathy. Like, you need to have empathy for people. Like, there's some people that have gone through it, some people that are stressed because their job is more stressful because of it. Somebody has a brother, somebody has a cousin, somebody might not have anybody, but their job is very stressful. So
if you haven't gotten it, it's affected everyone, because mentally we're not at the same place that we were 2.5 years ago.
If you haven't gotten it, you have the anxiety of getting it.
Our jobs
and people's jobs have changed, like the healthcare workers, the educators, people in the
human interaction
industry. I work in the travel media industry. It's changed all of it.
Everything.
To what
your
we
religion,
do
your choice of religion, your choice of politics, your choice of career, your choice, everything is affected.
Everything.
And the way you deal with everybody, and everybody has a friend that is an educator, everybody has a friend that's a healthcare worker, and everybody has a friend that's a Republican or a Democrat, and you have to deal with them in so many different ways. You feel like
you're left without choices sometimes.
Without choices. You're kind of doing this. This is
you're left without choices because
you do that nod when you kind of agree with everyone.
Going back to
yes, I get it.
Of the conversation, you can't even fathom, having your mom, your dad, your brother, your husband, your sister, your child sick in a hospital, and you're unable to be there, and no one's thinking about, oh yeah, the person in the hospital is taken care of, but nobody's thinking about you or the people around you, or your mom if it's your dad, or what's going on up here and how that affects people up here, and it's just it's I think everybody needs to take a step back, and everybody needs to breathe and think before they speak and respect each other.
You also don't know what somebody is dealing with because they might not have said it.
Because the way that
you might be walking past somebody that just lost their family member to COVID, and you have no idea. You're like,
and not just on the personal side, like on the employer side. So many businesses are just focused on like surviving right now, whether it's the hospitality industry or the restaurants or whatever, that they're not really focusing on their employees or what they're going through, or like, you have COVID, can you still work from home? Do it. Like,
I mean, it's just
because they're focusing on taking care of their families because they're about to lose their business.
Yeah. And like, you need to put your health first. Like, I know when I had COVID, I was still working, and Kathy and some of my other friends were like, you have family in the hospital, you're still working, you're worrying about everybody else. Have you forgotten that you are also sick? And their messaging me that was what made me take time off work, because I was like, you're right. I feel like crap. And I'm like taking care of
And
four
then those
people,
bosses
trying to
are
meet my
probably
deadlines at
also-
work.
And probably your boss also had COVID and their family members have COVID. Plus they're dealing with losing a business.
Yeah.
You know, so you're like,
it's really, you know, it's
you know,
interesting.
you have to
because
do
I had
you, you have to do them, you have to think about everything.
I had to text one of my kids' teachers when he tested positive for COVID, not my big, huge one, teenage grown man one, but my middle one. And he got COVID and he honestly felt ill. You know, he was sick the first day. He felt bad. He wanted to be sleeping. And I had to text that woman and email that woman like 300 times. And I'm a teacher. So it's not like I don't know what the hell's going on. You know what I mean? And basically I said, listen, I'm letting you know that he knows he has his work. He knows he's supposed to be on Zoom, but he's sick. He has a fever. He wants to be lying down and sleeping. And I'm not going to wake him up to get on a Zoom call, right? Oh, well, you know, he needs to do this by this date. I'm like, lady, show, you know, you're a mom too. This is a little kid. Give me a break. The world is not going to end because he doesn't do an iReady lesson.
Yep.
Like, but it was just like, after I'm like, she's a nice person and I really like her, but it's like, come on, you know, just take a step back. I know you need to get your grades in by tomorrow and I know you need to do all that, but come on, you know?
Yeah, there's a slim line. I'm a teacher too. I get it. There's a very thin line between I need to have 9 grades in the 9 weeks. And one of those grades is going to be the iReady grade.
You know what?
It is. And if we don't, do I give him a 0 or he had COVID and I feel I have empathy and I give him an X? You know, it's like a very thin line.
We all got to do the best we can.
Yeah. The best we can with what we have and what our hearts tell us and what God tells us to do. I mean, that's
common sense.
Okay. Next question. Darwin's theory of natural selection addresses how isolation can be both a curse and a blessing. Has humanity evolved during the pandemic? Why or why not?
Anybody? One more time.
What was the
I need to.
Darwin's
theory
of natural selection addresses how isolation can be both a curse and a blessing. Has humanity evolved during the pandemic? Why or why not?
Well, I don't know about humanity, but I know, not unfortunately, but I'm sad to say that it was kind of like a blessing for me when everything shut down. I was going like 100 miles an hour all the time, you know, kids, their school, being, you know, a stay-home mom, trying to be have my own business. And I was just very stressed out all the time, and Michelle knows. And I feel like when everything shut down, it made me kind of like slow down and have what it really matter at home with me. And it just, my perspective in life changed. It made me feel better. It made me appreciate what I have better. And ever since that March, it's just, I've been better.
For
like
me,
mental way. I don't know if that makes sense.
it does. I mean, for me personally, as an old person that my daughter would look at and be like, okay, but you're old. For me, being isolated, it was difficult in the way of like, you know, we would go and we would take the groceries and all that to my parents and leave it outside. So like that kind of interaction, right? That you're trying to physically isolate yourself from people so that you don't give them anything. But for me, isolation was not so difficult as it was for my kid. I mean, she's in college. This is her first year in college, but it was her senior year in high school. So, you know, you're in essence asking kids to do what is physically opposite of what they should be doing, right? Like hanging out with their friends and you know, you're asking them to just like stay hidden in the house. So I think that when you look at it from their perspective, it was very hard, at least for my child. But as old folk, it was great. You know.
For me, isolation was awful because it took away time that I could have spent with my dad before he passed away, because he was dying while we were all in isolation, him included, and we needed to protect him so he wouldn't die before he was supposed to. And so I feel like I was cheated, you know, in trying to protect, I was cheated. But it's you're in a difficult situation, because if I wouldn't have done it and I would have gone there and he would have gotten sicker and would have passed before, then I would have had less time. You know what I mean? So
catch-22.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what you're talking about, right? Like Darwin selection is like all right, I don't know if I remember this correctly, but it's
you adapt to your environment. Like you grow wings if you need to fly, because
exactly like how your body adapts to a certain response, right? Is that what it is? Like trying to survive in this kind of
it's like not the strongest, like the strongest people aren't the ones that survive, not necessarily, or the smartest people. It's how well you adapt.
How well you adapt to it.
Yeah, like but the question, that was like the prequel, but like the question was like, did humanity evolve during the pandemic? Why or why not?
So how did we change or adapt because of the pandemic? So we obviously survived because, you know, we were able to get groceries online. We adapted, right? Is that an adaptation that we did? Yes. Would you consider that?
I think it evolved. Oh, people have to go. I know we're taking longer. I'm sorry.
It's a great discussion.
Jackie says work doesn't care if you have book club. She had to get off.
Hi, Jackie.
I think it evolved for certain things, like there's more Zoom opportunities now. There's more like events on Zoom.
From home.
Workout instructors were like doing things online during that time. Like people became really innovative. I feel like people left jobs and started their own things that were unhappy before. Like a lot of new businesses came out, I think, during the pandemic.
But also people will regret
and
ended
I
up,
also
you know,
think,
eating
like,
more or
for
you
me
know,
personally,
depressed.
I'm a travel writer. I was traveling 3 to 4 times out of the month for a company that furloughed me the minute things got tough. I'm back there now, but
I think saw that. Congratulations.
Thanks. I think the being furloughed part made me like, why am I giving up so much of my time with my family and my loved ones on the weekend for a place that you're indispensable for? Like, it made me change what I wanted career-wise, time-wise. Like, before I was like, oh, I got to visit this nice exotic place. And now I traveled last week. I hated it with the mask. I mean, I know that we got to adapt to new circumstances, but the way I saw it was like, do we really need to travel? Like, that is just a perk. Like, there's friends of mine that need to travel. Like, they get frustrated when they can't. And I'm kind of like, can't we just be home? Like, do you need to put yourself in that dangerous little plane?
It goes
back
to that
right now. Like,
I taught second grade at one point in my life, needs and wants, right?
Yeah.
You want to travel. You don't need it.
No, you don't need it.
You
And
know,
people that are
your
like,
children
you
are
need
there, or you need to see your family, or you need
And
to
I'm like,
survive to travel.
The plane isn't the safest place to be right now, like with or without a mask. Like personally, I felt super uncomfortable. I'm aware that there's people on the front lines in way more danger, but this is a luxury. Like, do we want to put ourselves in that spot 3 to 4 times a month for what outcome? Like, I don't know. I think
now,
Michelle, like I think it made people reevaluate things like that. And it also had like people be creative and come up with new things, open new businesses.
I think it also gave people, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go.
Go, Lydia, we haven't heard you guys.
Go.
Bring it.
So I was gonna say that I think that it's forced because people have like, you know, reevaluated. It's forced businesses to adapt so they don't become obsolete, right? So like I work in advertising and it's like notable for it being crazy. Like it's always crazy. It's long hours, all this other stuff. Like you work in an agency, you're a slave. Like this is how it is. And now it's like, okay, well, it's gonna be hybrid or it's gonna be virtual because if not, people are leaving to a place that, you know, will offer that a little bit more of that work-life balance. So that's like one side. And then the other side where I was teaching at FIU, I was meaning to chime in because, you know, I hear you guys that like the teachers, that are young and know how to work technology, let me tell you what it was like on the other side. I mean, the only millennial, right? Working at FIU teaching there. Everybody else there is like super boomer. And they didn't know what they were doing, right? They didn't know how to put grades on. They still had like the grade books. They didn't know how to teach, let alone like coordinate everything on Zoom. It was a total disaster, you know? And somehow we're supposed to award degrees to these people. So it is scary. Like for the past 2 years, these people have been awarded degrees, and I don't know. Like I can't really
I did it in
guarantee.
elementary school and I don't know how it happened. So I can't imagine college.
Right. So all these people are like now in the workplace, figuring things out.
Yeah.
And getting to a workplace that is completely different from what it was 2 years ago, you know? So I just think it's interesting to like see. And lastly, sorry, I've been saving all my comments for the end.
Go.
Anybody, you know, can you please just come and help?
Hey, Monty just has $1,000 signing bonus to go be a waitress.
Same as teachers. Everybody's like, come teach.
It's crazy. It is insane. But so many people are burnt out that it's like, I feel it's going to be a bunch of like young nurses that just graduated and, you know, they're just going to have to figure it out. So yeah.
That art behind you is fire though. Zarud, isn't that the
Hey,
same
do you know who made
chick
that?
that did it for you?
It was Monica Borsegi. Wait.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm like, it's super hard to hold my laptop, but yeah.
Nice.
It's
Yeah. Zaru, which is also on this call, I remember her posting that she got something for her husband from her, right?
Same, yeah.
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 Gorgeous.
Okay.
I love it.
I'm going to skip a bunch of questions because we've already like half an hour over. I'm going to do one more. So Wish You Were Here deals with the pandemic in ways that can be intense. Jodi even discusses in her author's note that she struggled with finding a way to process these unprecedented events and wondered, how do we tell the tale of the world, of when the world shut down and why and what we learned? How did reading about the pandemic compare to you experiencing it? What kinds of emotions and reflections did the book bring up for you? What parts of the early pandemic had you already forgotten?
You're gonna have to share screen on that one, Michelle. That's a lot of questions.
Okay, the questions are, how do we tell the tale? Like the author was thinking, like, how do we say the story of the pandemic and when the world shut down and what we learned? That's what she was contemplating when she wrote the book. So the question is, when reading about the pandemic, how did reading about it compare to experiencing it? And what kinds of emotions or reflections did the book bring up for you? And what parts of the pandemic had you forgotten? Like we mentioned before, a lot of people forgot about the morgue trucks.
I mean, it's very simple, but I forgot the feeling when I went to, I think it was Target, and a few people had a mask on. And I'm like, why are people with a mask on? Like, what's happening? First of all, I never listen to the news because it depresses me. So I didn't know what's going on. And even before that, we went on a trip. We got on an airplane in January. You stayed with my kids. And there were a few people with masks on. And my husband and I were kind of like making fun of them, like, oh, like Chinese people, that they always have a mask on wherever they go. And then a few weeks later, we learned why. And I told him, you know what, we were making fun of them. They were right.
Yeah.
He could have been to COVID without even knowing what it was. And we were not educated. And now, like, Chinese people are right. They're completely right in wearing a mask everywhere they go for everything. And that makes me, for what I do for work, I work with babies. And even when COVID is over, hopefully one day, I'm going to still wear a mask when I'm handling a baby. It's just common sense. You know, you don't know what you've been exposed to, even if it's just a simple cold, and you can give it to a newborn baby. So that is something.
Working with babies. Yeah.
Yeah, for
100%.
sure.
I think that March 13th is a day that it's one of those like, oh, where were you when? Like I remember vividly March 13th. That was the day I'm a teacher. I work with Jen, that we were told, hey guys, you know, school's gonna shut down that afternoon. You need to come in Monday as a work day. And that evening, my boys had flag football games over at the Kental Boys and Girls Club, and we were all talking like, oh my gosh, you know, what's gonna happen, hearing different things, we're not sure. And I remember vividly, we all went to Sports Girl afterwards, and that was the last time I ate in a restaurant
Aw.
for a while.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
just
Give
that
me goosebumps.
weird, it's that weird, odd, it was a strange feeling. And just again, going into work on Monday with no students. And it was just, okay, here, this is Zoom. You got it. This is what Google Classroom is. It was like a crash course. Actually, it was at Moto that year. And
It was.
just, it was like a crash course. This is what you got to do. Hurry up. Let's plan. Da, da, da. And it was just like, oh my gosh, you know, like we were thrown into this, and it was like, no, but it's, you know, we're going to come back to it. Not a problem. Like, we're going to be back in 2 weeks. This is just temporary. So don't skip a beat. And then spring break came along. We were supposed to go on a trip. And I remember asking questions, and it was even like HR related at that day. Like, well, you know, if you take a trip knowing that there's a possibility you would come back with COVID, we don't. And I remember my husband and I were like, oh, we'll take the risk, no problem. Well, the cruise was canceled, that spring break. You know, it's just kind of how we were naive, you know, in that sense. And then just like, oh my gosh, like, wow, this is what, you know, happened.
This
It's
is
just
what it
thinking
turned
back
out.
to
I
that
know.
time, like it was nuts. Like we're on Zoom having happy hour and just, you know, I think like how naive we were at the time, not realizing like, oh my gosh, really like the severity of it and what's, you know, what transpired from it.
I was supposed to travel to Mexico that week that everything shut down. And I kept telling my boss, like, I don't want to go to Mexico. This thing is happening. They're like, what are the chances that you get that? You're going until they cancel it. And it was when Glenda was away with her family. And I was like, they canceled my trip on like the 18th of March. Thank God I didn't have to go to Mexico.
And listening, I don't know, I mean, things you take for granted. I remember like we spent a lot of time outside, you know, with the kids. Like I live in a canal, we kayaked a few, never have I ever kayaked again, but we were kayaked up and down the canal just to do something and not to be on the electronics or whatnot. And I remember hearing a plane for the first time. You know, it seems silly, you take that for granted, but like hearing a plane going through, you're like, my gosh, I haven't heard that, like going through the sky in like forever. And like you're out in East Kendall, you don't live by the airport where you hear it often, but it was kind of like that impresionante, like hearing it like, oh my gosh, okay, things slowly, you know, coming back.
Yeah. When I remember the day that everything shut down, my husband was having surgery that day. So I was in the hospital and I got an email from my kids' school saying that they were shutting down and it was going to be Zoom school. And I was like, what is Zoom? I didn't even know what Zoom was. And I thought, I'm here in a hospital. Am I going to get infected? My mom calls me and she's like, don't touch anything. Don't touch your eyes. Don't touch your mouth. Don't touch your face. And I'm going to the bathroom 20 times to wash my hands constantly. I was there for hours and I was starving. I didn't even want to eat because you're like meeting something from the hospital. What if it's infected with something? And it was this crazy thought.
I think for forever, at least for us, it's always going to be pre-COVID and then post-COVID.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like people, yeah, like, you know, the people in World War II or whatever, you know, major event. I think that for, you know, for the rest of our lives, we're going to label things, you know, because pre-COVID, whatever. And
yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm going to end this on a positive note. And I'm sorry we've taken long, but I had a feeling this book was going to take longer than the 1 hour. What thing that did you do during that? This isn't like a book club, like a book related question, but what thing did you do during the pandemic when like we had no access to like friends or outings or anything? Did you do that you would like to still incorporate it? And then maybe we can all try to incorporate whatever that thing is, at least like once a month.
Oh, I took a few baths in my amazing bathtub
that you never use.
And then I never use. And I read at least 3 to 4 books every week for like
I read a lot too. Yeah.
5 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you need to take a bath once a month.
Yeah, I haven't taken.
Well, Glenda, please bathe a little bit more than that.
I feel like we have like our social calendars are gearing up again.
I get what she was saying.
No, yeah. Our social calendars are like back in rotation, that we don't have time to do those things that we did, that we were like, oh, we're doing these weird things. Like Christy said, kayaking, and she's never done it again. Like, what are those things that you did then that you should probably try to do a little bit more to like
yoga?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was yogaing at home all the time. And I barely do it anymore.
I journaled a lot.
Everything is back.
I spent a lot of time journaling. Well, I had a baby in August 2020. And so one of the things my mom told me, she's like, you need to write everything down, because when he grows up, I would write passages and I'm like, this is how the doctor was today. And like, I felt like I was writing from like the Oregon Trail, he's going to read this when he's old. And I'm going to be one of those old people that like the pandemic of 2020. Like, that's how I just, it was so bizarre. And I remember writing about like, we can't find toilet paper and there's no toilet paper and everybody's hoarding toilet paper and we don't know what we're doing. And we had to get toilet paper from like this person's friend because there's nothing. And so, yeah, my mom was just, encouraging of like everything, just write it down because
Are you still journaling?
I am not as much because he's 1.5 and I don't have that much time as when I was pregnant. But yeah, I just thought about a lot of it because how, kids are going to be affected and like, he's not going to know anything before, COVID. So yeah, it was important to kind of try to document all of that. I don't know if he'll ever read it, but maybe he will.
You'll read it.
I have a question on that. I always thought about journaling, but how do you do it? Do you do it like every day or when like something comes to you, or is it like
you can do it whenever you want?
Yeah, whenever you want.
No? Oh, okay.
Doesn't have to make sense to anybody but you.
You can do it daily.
I feel like I'm a very like I have to write everything in an agenda, and if it's in that agenda or on that list, it will get done. So I'm just saying, what works for you that you make it like feasible?
You can get a prompt and answer a question.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They have books that you could do prompts and like it asks you a question and then you just answer that question that day.
So for that day, I got you.
Like for me, I write about that day, or like if something happened that I want to remember.
Yeah.
And if there's nothing specific or spectacular, you just don't journal that day.
Yeah. Or you could do a prompt. Sometimes those books have like super weird random questions that just make you think about, I don't know. Yeah.
I haven't journaled. I was, I think, 15, so it's been many, many, many years.
Yeah, I have. I've almost. To be honest, I've probably never done it. A journal. So the happy planner is that your happy planner, Michelle? Is that your happy planner?
No, but my happy planner is here too.
I've been reading the emails and I'm tempted, but I don't know. I don't know if I can find another moment in my life to actually do it. Like I want to, and I'm like, you know those things that like, should I commit? Should I not? Should I commit? I don't know.
I'm going to talk about that in a second. Anybody else? Anything you did during the pandemic that you want to keep on? Allie? I'm calling you because I know you did a lot of fun stuff.
Allie. So there's two Allies.
I mean, Allie dyed her hair with
Allie. There's Allie.
Oh, that's right. I did.
B.
I'm not going to do that again, although it was fun. But I actually, my New Year's resolution or my goal, because I like to say goals instead of resolutions in 2020 was to read a book a month, get through, not necessarily a month, but read 12 books for the year. And
Tell them how many you read last year.
Well, so I read 15 in 2020, which never would have happened without COVID. Yeah. And then I said, okay, for 2021, I don't want to, I'm just going to say I want to read more than what I read last year. And I finished Wish You Were Here. It was I wrote down all of my books and it was book 23. And I said, okay, now I have 2 days left of the year. And I hurried and read another book so I could actually beat my unspoken goal of last year. So
he was reading on the 31st trying to finish.
Yeah. And I finished it. I found a book that I read mostly on the 30th and I woke up early on the morning of the 31st and finished it. And I was like, okay, I got it. But I'm not doing so well this year yet because I haven't opened up a book yet.
January.
It's only January.
What time?
January.
Anybody else?
Same thing.
Kathy, I'm calling you.
I
did. Quiet.
Oh, I in 2020 it was very nice because I felt like I had more time to work out because we had nothing else to do. So I wish that I could somehow find a schedule to get back on that routine. But I feel like it's very hard whenever, now the calendar gets filled. Like there's always something going on now. So
I missed the empty calendar.
I miss the empty calendar. Absolutely. Or, like a balance. It doesn't have to be, so empty, but it doesn't have to be so filled up either. So working out more, I wish, is something that I would like to get back on.
Olga?
I agree. I want to work out.
There's something you did?
We did a lot of puzzles, and that was fun. We had some very challenging ones, but we did puzzles. We watched a lot of movies. My daughter loves to watch movies and stuff, so we did that. And just, I don't know, slow down. Yeah. I did a lot of, we would sit in the backyard, and that's where I grew to love birds, because I didn't realize how many different birds we had in our backyard. Sounds weird, but like I literally can sit out, and now I can, pretty much identify the common.
That's very cool.
The common visitors. I can identify with their song, but I think that was one of the things that I liked, was my appreciation of nature and just birds and slowing down. I think we all live a very hectic life, and just doing things that were like off screen too, like not just on your phone. So I would like to do a couple more puzzles.
Okay, you have to do a puzzle this month.
Love that.
Christy's going kayaking again.
Bye. Good night.
I love puzzles too.
Bye.
But bye.
Definitely trying to incorporate the kayaking again. One thing that I did, my boys were really into the Avengers movies, and my students would always talk about it. So I actually binge watched, like at the time it was like 23 of them in the order you were supposed to watch them, right? Because there's some sort of a timeline you're supposed to follow. So I did that like from March to April of 2020. But definitely kayaking and just doing things together, the 5 of us. We're a family of 5, so definitely being out more together, bike riding in the neighborhood and whatnot, being outdoors more.
Yeah, being outdoors was very nice. I think I found I had like a new respect for the outdoors after quarantine. We rented a lake house in August of 2020, and I never thought that I would love a lake house so much in my life. Like I did it because of the boys, and I was like, let's do this. And now, like I've told my husband, like we need to do this again because it was just so nice.
Peaceful.
That's awesome.
Very peaceful.
I want to do something.
And the hiking, very nice too.
Lily?
I'm having a little bit of a slump in my doing stuff.
Okay, so you're next. Go.
Because my husband is deployed right now, and he's in Saudi Arabia till August.
Oh, wow.
So it's hard, like getting everybody together to at the same time not have either ABA therapy or volleyball practice or chess club or faculty meeting or dog training. It's hard to get everybody on the same day to actually do some sort of activity. This is rare that I have.
It doesn't have to be with everybody. It could be something just for you.
Yeah.
It could be
but
something
I'd rather. Thank you. Yeah, but I choose them first. I want to do something with everybody. You know what I mean? But it's hard to get everybody on the same schedule. So yeah, that's my goal, is to get everybody, maybe on a weekend or a Saturday or something, just to do some outdoor activity, like Zarud said. Just get outside of the house. Not just have one on the iPad, we'll play video games, me reading. Yeah, that's great for me, but it's not good for like the whole, family. So yeah, that's my goal.
Lily?
So I think, pardon the sound effects, he still hasn't gone to sleep.
Mine either.
So for me, it was slowing down, right? And I know that like some people were talking about that, but it really was, because it got to a point where it was like rinse and repeat. Like, okay, what else? What's next? And it's like we never stopped to like just spend time, my husband and I, or spend time with my son, or just spend time away from everybody by myself, doing whatever I want to do, So I've been trying to make it a goal where it's like every weekend, even if it's a little thing, like for myself, where I'm by myself doing whatever I want without any interruptions, even if it's 2 hours, but it's intentional, So it's kind of like, I guess, living intentionally, if you want to be poetic about it. and like kind of balancing that on the weekends where it's not just kind of like giving and like trying to get being with everybody and trying to like keep up the social calendar. And I feel like, you know what, people are gonna understand. And if they don't understand, then it sucks that you don't understand. But like, I guess caring a little bit less. And I also got a Peloton, and I need to get back on it because I had a really good thing going. And ever since 2022 came around, I haven't gotten on it once.
Well, there's only been 3 weeks, so you're not that bad.
Yeah.
Not that bad.
So I feel like I'm getting there. I'm getting ready to get
I
on.
thought about it. I watch the videos and I get the advertisements and I'm like,
And Lydia, what's your pandemic ritual?
Well, I started meditating. I wake up every day at 5:30 and I
love
meditate for a half an hour. And then I immediately follow that by going on Instagram and finding the most, I don't know, inspirational quotes of the day and posting them.
Ah, that's where your quotes come from. I like them.
Yeah. Because I think that during the pandemic, in order not to lose like my connection with people, which is funny because, you know, a lot of people just lost the human connection because they were forced to be behind a screen. I did in some ways, but in many ways I didn't. Like I can tell, Michelle can tell you, Michelle and I became super close during the pandemic. Like we
met in real life for the first time during the pandemic.
We had met like through
like casually, like
you know,
not real.
through a mutual person, you know, in passing a couple of times, and we would speak for like 5 minutes and, you know, hi, whatever, hi, how are you?
We didn't know each other.
You know, and we didn't really know each other. And then
we had a 3-hour lunch.
Yeah. And we just,
I would love to have a lunch with you, Michelle.
We just
can go to lunch.
You know why? Because I gotta say, and I tell this to Michelle all the time, thanks to Michelle, she made that year, okay, a lot of things made that year very difficult, but a lot of things were beautiful about that year.
I agree.
Michelle's posts on Instagram or on social media or whatever, to me, were just so inspiring. And so I got such genuine positivity from them that I just felt like, you know, I just had to say, I always had to tell her, hey, you know, you're making a big difference for me.
Thank you.
And I think it's important.
I agree.
And
thanks,
so,
guys.
Seriously, and you know it, I've told you that a bazillion times.
You know this.
And I think now something that I'm like trying to do is do that. You know, I meditate and I do like a whole meditation. I do an app in the morning, it's Headspace, and I do it. And then after that, I just sit there and I find, okay, what can I post that some random person who follows me on Instagram, all whatever, 10 people that might follow me on Instagram.
I'm going to share your next quote because they're good. Everyone follow Lydia.
I love this.
And I just put it, and it's nothing of, you know, I never put pictures of myself. I never put pictures of, I might put pictures of food or something or whatever. But I just find things and I'm like, okay, maybe somebody needs to read this today, you know? And
I agree. Yeah.
And so I want to keep that going because I think we all need a little positivity at the beginning of our day, every day, you know? And
it's funny how I stumbled across this book club, and it's crazy because it's crazy how we have that, you know, what is it called? I don't remember right now, but it's like, yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. See how she read my mind? 6 degrees of separation. So Zaru posted last Christmas about her book exchange, right? And I saw that she tagged, right, the person that gave her a book, which was Eileen Amador, right? That was your book exchange person, right? I worked with Eileen Amador in my old school, which was Pinecrest Cove. So I said, wow, that's nice that they do this, right? So I said, I love reading. I'm gonna join, right? So I joined the book club, right? Which is a route was in, which I work with now. And Eileen Amador, which I worked with before, and they're both my friends. So then Michelle happens to be friends with Eileen Amador, right? So then on my teacher Instagram, which is not my regular Instagram, right? I see Michelle come up on my room mom's feed as one of my students' godmothers.
Oh.
Right? So Celioni, right, Sena, I had her daughter Mia, and it just so happens that Michelle is her godmother. So I mean, it's
Everyone
crazy
is
how
connected
the
in
world,
Miami.
everyone is connected in a way. And I'm like, maybe I was somehow, fed this through Zarut to be a part of this community, which made me find my love for reading again, because I had lost it.
Aww.
Through
We've never
life.
met. You're like my virtual friend.
Yeah, no, we never met in real life, but we have so many common friends, and it just yeah. In the last couple of years,
It brings you a
I've
little
just-
bit of happiness, and I know your husband's away,
Yes.
so it gives you a
Yeah.
little distraction.
Yes, thank you.
For those of you that asked, the Plan a Happy Life book, the author that wrote it is the lady that made the planner book, and she's very into like wellness. She's retired from like the Happy Planner. She's just like an advisor now, and she's actually went back to school. She's in her 50s and is getting a degree in wellness, and I think like psychology now. So the book is about like how to plan your happy life. So part of it is like the first chapters is like finding your purpose. Let me see, there's like the 4 Ps: purpose, passion, and planning and positivity. There's another section on like wellness. It's not just fitness. And then there's one part of like creating happiness and finding time for like fun. It's like a workbook. So that's why I said it's like a workshop, because each section has like.
Can you raise the book a little?
Wait, hold on. Like there are pages that it's just like a photo or a quote or something. So if it looks like the reading is for like 30 pages, it's not 30 full pages. And then there's like things within the book, like questions for you to answer and like think about. So I started this in 2020 because she did it and she broke it up like a book club, but it was every week and it was a little much for me to handle in the middle of like the pandemic starting. So I read like the first part and then I stopped, but I've been wanting to do it again. And that's when I posted if anybody wanted to join. So what I was thinking of doing is we'll read a section every 2 weeks so that everybody has enough time. And they're like maybe 30 pages, 40 pages is not a lot. But again, some of the pages are like a full page of a quote or something. And then I'm linking to her book club, which has like additional meditation or like questions for you to like journal yourself if it's something that you want to do. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. And then she has like things to make you think about. Like the first section, her hands-on activity is to create a vision board. That's why I said 2 weeks, because people need time to do these things. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Another one, it's like create time for fun and do like a fun activity. So it's not always like a hands-on, like you have to be crafty. So that's what we're doing. If anybody wants to do it, we might have a special guest for one of the sessions. And then we can discuss on Zoom or like Instagram chat box or something. I don't want to make it like very burdensome, but that's what we're doing with that if anybody is interested in that. Now, our next book.
Sorry, so it's like once a month?
It's going to be
once every 2 weeks?
Once every 2 weeks. So
2 weeks.
If you sign up, hold on.
So the first 2 weeks is the vision board one?
Yeah, which will be like the 15th. If you sign up, I will send, where is it? I will send like an outline of like these chapters and these pages by this date. It's February 15th, and then
so it's a book and
Tuesday
a
after that.
Sorry.
No, it's a book. It's a book. She owns like a planner company. So
and then because I've heard of the Happy Planner.
She owns a
so
planner
it's
company.
This is just the book, and then inside there's writing, or no?
Yeah, inside there's like sections for you, like see, look,
where for you to journal.
It's like a page for you to journal. So like it might look like the reading is 40 pages, but it might be like 5 pages of like questions or pictures.
I got you.
See, like these 2 pages are all like questions.
I got you.
So if anybody is interested, and we might have a special guest for one.
And the first one is a vision board.
Is the vision board on February 15th. So if you sign up, I'll send like the.
And that is the special guest. The special guest is for the vision board?
No.
So
Okay.
question about the vision board. Can we do this on Pinterest and share our screen so we could like show and tell?
You can do whatever.
Or
you
does it have to be like a physical one?
No, you can do whatever you want. It can be like this size if you want. It could be digital if you want. It could be in your planner. Like there's no rules.
I got you.
Okay, so right now I just sent like the email last week if anybody's interested to sign up to see if like people really want to do it. We've had a few people sign up, and then I'll send out the breakdown of like assignments or how we're gonna do it if anyone is interested. Now,
All
we will
right.
see the next book.
Oh, I want to know.
One of you already got it. It was one of your holiday book exchange.
No. Was it lucky? No. It's lucky. I know it.
It's lucky. Have you read it already?
No, I haven't. I'm about to start actually.
I just started this
That's what
like
it is.
10 pages in. It is not a book.
I just finished the new Colleen Hoover one. If anybody reminders of him is great.
I want to read
But
that.
I'm
This
gonna
isn't
do
like my
lucky.
typical book. It's about like a heist and
Yeah,
tricks
I
people. I don't know what like the final thing is going to be about, like her life as a trickster, or is she
I
heist
know,
people?
I know. I have no
But
idea.
it seems interesting, and the author is going to join
short.
us for the
It
next
looks
one.
short.
Yeah, it's not that long.
Yeah.
200 and no, it's 231 pages.
Yeah.
The author is joining us for the next one. But she'll only be here for 30 minutes, not the whole hour. So don't be late.
When is that going to be?
March. Hold on. I'll send out the email, but in March, I think the 20 something.
Okay, I have time.
Plenty of time. Okay, can we take our photo?
Yeah. Oh.
I'll tell you the date right now if you want. Hold on.
Yeah, I do. Crazy person. I look like I've been crying.
No, you're okay. March 30th.
Oh, so much time.
Lots of time.
3:30.
Okay. Let me. Ready? Smile. Ali, smile. Okay, I'm gonna do it again just in case. We've lost like half of the book club, so thank you to you guys for staying for so long. Oops. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you guys for staying on. I am sorry we went over like an hour, like 2 hours.
This is
In
fun.
anticipation for like 2.5
Bye,
months.
everybody.
Good.
Lydia,
It's
let
not
your
that
friends
bad.
know that we don't normally take 2 hours.
No, never. But it was good. I just got the little one already restless. So
I agree.
gotta go. I'll
Thank
see
you all for
guys.
staying on. It was
really
fun.
fun.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye, Andy. Oh, he left. Alrighty. I love you, but I'm so tired. I need to go to sleep.
Bye.
Bye.